So today we bring our theme of shining bright, shining brilliant like a diamond to a close. And the first Sunday, which happened to be Easter, which was, I think, April 1st, not coincidentally April Fool's Day, but nonetheless, we had that song, Shine Bright Like a Diamond. We had that sung, and I said that's kind of going to be our theme song with a few strategically changed lyrics, because some of those lyrics are not appropriate for church, not even this one. But the line that works so beautifully for us is, shine bright like a diamond, find light in the beautiful sea, I choose to be happy, you and I were like diamonds in the sky. And that has been our theme this month, and the idea has been that each one of us came here into this life to shine that light of the divine, to shine the brilliance of God, to let that light so shine into the world that we and the world are transformed because they see God in, as, and through us. And we see God in, as, and through us. So I want us to take a little quick tour of where we've been all month so that we can then bring ourselves to today. Very quick tour with a couple of visual aids. So the first one, as I said, was Easter, and our theme for that day was Arise and Shine. And possibly this sums up what we talked about that Sunday. Eat diamonds for breakfast and shine all day. That could summarize what we talked about. Then we started taking 1C of the diamond rating scale, 1C a week. And the first C of the diamond rating scale that we covered was C for cut. And Reverend Sally Robbins explored that beautifully. And this could probably summarize what she said. Your dad's been under a lot of pressure lately. Those are lumps of coal, just to be really clear. Lumps of coal. All right. Then we looked at clarity, and we said that we can be clear vessels for the divine to flow through and as and around us. And we explored some ways in which we could kind of clear up that, make sure we're a clearer vessel. And also clarity is very important in communication. And this just illustrates how important clarity is in communication. The wife said she wanted a dime and ring, and that's when the fight started. Thank you. Thank you. Clearly needed that one for that one. All right. Then last week, we looked at color. And we said, how do the qualities of God color your life? Do you remember that? We had a color wheel, right? And you each identified. I hope you have those color wheels up somewhere so you can see the qualities of God that were up for you and how you were to express those qualities in your life. And I think that I was, I was diligently, was the word I wanted, diligently looking for some cute little something that could go up here about the color of diamonds, and I couldn't really find anything. But I did find something which then reminded me of a story. So let me tell you the story, then you'll get to see that. The story is when I was young, and my younger sister was younger, we had dinner at our aunt's house. And after dinner, our aunt said, I have made apple pie for dessert. Who would like apple pie for dessert? And my sister, who was probably, 4, 5, 6, she was really quite young. She looks at my aunt and she says, no, I don't want that. Do you have anything brown? Chocolate. That would be chocolate. My aunt didn't get it either, actually. She was not sure. I immediately knew what my sister was asking for. Yeah, my God. Yes, I'm that. So here we go. Here we go. Dear Diamond, we all know who really is a girl's best friend. Yours sincerely, chocolate cake. Or it could have been signed by my sister's wording, something brown. So the final quality of the diamond rating scale that we're going to look at today is carat. We know the more carats a diamond weighs, the more valuable it is. And so I want to share something from someone famous, or perhaps actually infamous might be the better thing, to set the tone for where we're going to go today with carats. So here it is. Mae West once said, I never worry about diets. The only carats that interest me are the number you get in a diamond. Bada-ding. I needed that for that too. So now, having set the bar very low for our work today, Obviously, larger diamonds are rarer diamonds, and rarer diamonds are more valuable diamonds. What does the weight or the carat of a diamond have anything to do with how we shine the light of God through and as us? Well, I suggest it's this way. I suggest that I actually pose some questions. What carat is our conviction that we are walking, talking manifestations of God's love and light and law? God's love and law. What carat is your conviction that you are a walking, talking manifestation of God's love and law? So let me just take a quick moment, teaching moment here, God's love and law. Ernest Holmes says in the textbook, so many times I can't tell you what page it's on, it's there many times, and he says it in all of his books, love points the way, and the law makes the way possible. Love is the impetus of everything. Even when we don't realize it, even when we don't think it looks like it, it is. Love is the starting point of everything. And then God's law, which is an infallible, immutable, absolutely works every time exactly the same process, system that simply says whatever gets placed in it then gets manifested out as it. So as love is placed in the law, love gets manifested out. Even, and this is where we'll go a bit today, when we don't think it is, and it doesn't look like it, it is. The question is, how weighty is your conviction that that is true? How weighty, how large, how big is your conviction that you, and trust in you that you are that? How much do you trust that you really are that? If you trust that you are that, that would make a big difference in our lives. And how much do we trust? What carat is our believing in the allness, the wholeness, and the perfection of God's love and law, even, as I said a moment ago, in those moments where we don't think it is. So I say this a lot, but I'll say it again today, I get that it's really easy to say, yes, my conviction that I'm a walking, talking manifestation of God's love and law is strong. It's easy to say that until something challenging strikes. It's easy to say, I trust myself as an expression of God's love and law until we're not doing so well, or we mess up. Anybody ever mess up and then question yourself? Come on, everybody, you know, we all do that. We all do that. And it's easy to say, my belief in the allness and the wholeness and the perfection of God is great until the you-know-what hits the fan. And then we're not so sure. But if our conviction, if our trust, if our belief cannot withstand the appearance of a challenge, then here's the question. Did we really have it in the first place? Did we really have that belief in the first place? And I want to give you a demonstration. I'm going to tell you about a demonstration which you get to visualize, because you can do that, right? You can visualize? Can you do that? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Do you hear a little buzz? Yeah, we've got a buzz going. Can we see? Right. Whee! Well, that's not exactly the kind of buzz I meant. It is not your, hold on. Boy, I did not mean it that way. All right, hold on. I think did you just turn something off there? Yeah, yeah, it's still kind of there. So we're working in the sound booth. It's not as bad. We're working on it. And it's actually annoying the heck out of me. So, I don't like that. So we're working on it back there in the sound booth. All right. So here's the demonstration that you get to see in your mind, okay? There is a professor, a college professor, who is going to teach his class about the law of the pendulum. Thank you. Thank you. There, I heard it's gone. The law of the pendulum says that a pendulum will never come back to this, because of friction and gravity, it will never come back to the place from which it started. And so to demonstrate the law of the pendulum, the professor had, and this was an old school because it had a chalkboard, and so the professor had a string and a child's top tied to the bottom and a little loop on the top, and he thumbtacked or nailed the string to the wall right above the chalkboard. And then he took, so let's say the chalkboard is here, the pendulum is here. He took the top, he walked it back here, and he made a mark on the chalkboard where that top was. And then he let it go. And off it went, and it came back to about here. And he made a mark. And then it went out, and it came back to about right here. And he made a mark. And he kept making a mark at every place it came back to until it quit. And he said, see, because of the law of the pendulum, friction and gravity, it never came back to its original place. Then he looked at his class. I'm looking at you now. You get to be the class for right now. I'm the teacher. The teacher says, class, do you believe in the law of the pendulum? Yes. Yeah. Students thought, well, that was interesting. And they thought the lesson was done. Oh, no, no, no. The lesson had only just begun, as some song says. It had only just begun. Because the professor also had, hanging from the ceiling, that the students were now noticing, a 200-pound weight tied up with 4 parachute cords, of very strong parachute cords. And he said, I would like a volunteer. So it's probably like you guys sometimes do here when I say, do we have guests? Do we have any guests this morning? I see all the friends going, right here, here's a guest, here's a guest. So I think his classmates went, right here, this guy would like to do it. So one kid got up, and the professor had a chair sitting over here right next to a cement wall. The chair is right next to the cement wall. The kid's sitting in it. The professor pulls this 250-pound weight right up to the kid's nose. And he once again describes the law of the pendulum, which is because of gravity and friction, it will never return to its starting place. So therefore, his nose is not in any kind of danger. And the professor said to this classroom, do you believe in the law of the pendulum? They're, yes, we do. And now he looks at the student and says, do you believe in the law of the pendulum? Sweat starting to come out on his brain. He goes, because he's the one having this 250-pound weight right at his nose. Meekly, so only the professor can hear it, he says, yes. The professor one more time says the law of the pendulum is da 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 da. And with that, he let it go. It was probably slow motion to that kid. You know how everything moves in slow motion. So I'm sure that pendulum was slow motion. Took its stop, which probably seemed like an eternity here, and then headed its way back. And at about right there, that kid never moved so fast as he did off that chair to get out of the way of the pendulum. And after that happened, the professor looked at that audience, or looked at his students and said, does he believe in the law of the pendulum? No. If we don't believe in the law of the pendulum, when the pendulum comes swinging at us, we're going to run for cover. We're going to duck. And actually, it's really easy to say we believe in it until the possibility of having that smack us in the face is right there. I have many, 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 many favorite passages from our Science of Mind textbook. But there is one that rises to the top of all of them, and that I have turned to it so often that my Science of Mind textbook at home simply opens to it now. It really does. I actually tested this, not intentionally, but the other day, I wanted to share this passage with someone who was going through a challenge, and I said, oh, just a minute, let me get the passage for you. I'm going to find it because I don't remember the page it was on. And literally, I opened my book, and there it was. And I'm sorry, Dr. Leonard Minks, my mentor, if you're watching this, it is not page 29, which says to learn how to think is to learn how to live. For our thoughts go into a medium which is infinite in its ability to do and to be, which he told me I must learn, and I became a religious science minister. I love that one too, but that's not it. It's page 282. And on 282, it says, stay with the one and never deviate from it. One is capitalized, by the way. Stay with God and never deviate from God. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. And now this next line is in all caps. which Ernest Holmes did when he wanted us to really pay attention. And here's our law of the pendulum. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. When things look the worst is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst is the best time to work, the most satisfying. The person who can throw him or herself with complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, set loose from all apparent moorings, will be the one who receives the greatest reward. My favorite passage. It has served me well. I want it to serve you well as well. And I get, when the pendulum looks like it's about to smack you in the nose, what happens for us? What emotion do we feel? Fear. Fear. I get it. I understand it. I have it at times. The master teacher Jesus had something amazing to say about that to us. More amazing, actually, than you might think. And I want to unpack why it is more amazing than you might think. And it might take a tiny bit of mental concentration as well for you to get this, but I warmed you up with the pendulum demonstration, so I know you're ready to now follow this. 4 times in the scripture, Jesus says, "Be ye not afraid." Be ye not afraid. 4 times. 3 of those times he said to his disciples. Now we look at the Bible in many, many layers, but one of the layers we look at, or levels I should say, of understanding, one of them is that we look at the Bible as a message for us and our ever-evolving soul and our ever-evolving relationship to Source. And so metaphysically, we look at the disciples as representing our minds and all the different things that go on in our minds. We might call it the committee. Anybody have the committee? Thank you, 3 of you, for acknowledging. Yeah, you know that, They meet at night. Yes, they do. They have their meetings at night. 3 o'clock in the morning is when they decide, oh, let's have a conversation. Yes, right. Yeah, that's when it's quiet, they can just speak up. Right, so in this, the metaphysical interpretation of Jesus' words, "Be ye not afraid," which he said to his disciples, we are knowing he's saying that to us. 3 out of the 4 times he says to us, "Be ye not afraid." Now here's the deal. He said that in Aramaic, right? The first translation from Aramaic was Greek. In the Greek language, there is a part of speech that we do not have in the English language. It doesn't translate. It's called the present imperative. The present imperative in the Greek language means that when a commandment is given, like "be ye," there's a commandment, be. When that was given, it means this: do this thing that I am commanding now, and do it as a continuous and steady practice in the future. Do this thing that I am commanding now, and do it as a continuous, that means uninterrupted, and steady practice in the future. For us, if you said, "Be not afraid," we would think it just means right now, right? Just don't be afraid right now. That's not what that means. That means don't be afraid now, and don't be afraid as a continuous and steady practice in the future. I think that's pretty cool. I like knowing that. I think that's amazing. And if that were it, it would be enough, but that's not it. There's more. But wait, there's more. Because in the Greek language, when something was said in the negative, such as this, "Be ye not afraid," that's in the negative, it had even another meaning in this present imperative tense. And the meaning of something said, a commandment said in the negative, is this: stop doing what you're doing. Stop doing what you're doing. Don't do it now, and don't do it in the future. I love that. Be ye not afraid. Stop being afraid now. Don't be afraid tomorrow, and don't ever be afraid again. Jesus could say that because he had a weighty conviction of who and whose he was. He had a weighty, many carat conviction of his connection and therefore faith in himself because of his connection to source. He had a very gigantically big diamond of understanding that God's perfection and wholeness are everything and everywhere. He could say that because he had that level of conviction. And it was because he had that he and his life shined bright like a diamond, to use our wording for today. So I like to always make whatever we talk about not just theory, but applicable. So I want to say to you this morning, what does that mean? So what does that mean in your life? Well, I know with this many people in a room, there are probably one or more going through what I'm about to share. So if this hits home to you, know that I am actually speaking directly to you. Some people say to me sometimes, I think you were talking directly to me. Well, yes, I was. I think you're in my home listening to what's going on. Well, yes, I am. Just in the one mind. I promise I don't have drones or spies or anything like that. All right. So if you have that kind of conviction and trust and belief in who and whose you are in the allness of Spirit and the perfection of God and the perfection of God's love and law, it means that you know that even if a job ends, there is a better one waiting for you. You just went through it. You know it. You know that if an illness strikes, there is a renewed sense and a rebirth that is wanting to come forth through and as you. If you have this kind of faith and conviction and you have a weighty carat full of that, you know that if your financial life hits the skids, that there is a flow and an ebb and a flow and an ebb, but source is always source. Now, I particularly want to mention a little something else about that. Those words, there is an ebb and a flow, an ebb and a flow, an ebb and a flow, and source is always source, actually came from one of our board members, Carla Monterosa, who was in first service. May we speak frankly for a moment? We always do, right? So April, the month of April, so far, the flow hasn't been coming very well for this center. And, we just had to pull $5,000 out of savings to cover expenses, because the expenses stay exactly the same no matter what the flow is. And every week, at the end of the week, Deb Covington, our business and finance manager, sends out, letting all the board members and the finance committee members know where we are that week. And this last Friday, she sent it out, and we were $2,000 in the hole. And there was some conversation among our board members, all very let's hold high watch, let's know the truth. But Carla sent back, ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow, source is always source. And personally, I thanked her personally in first service. I'll thank her now in absence here. I needed to hear that in the moment, because I got into a little bit of fear. Like, ooh, yow. So I thank Carla for that, and I love that about community. That is so powerful about community. We hold each other. When one gets in fear, another one isn't, and we can support each other in be ye not afraid. So I know that when the financial situation, whatever it might be in my personal life and the life of our community, in your life, if it isn't flowing like you want it to or think it should or enough even to pay the bills, that there is an ebb and a flow, and source is always source, and source always provides. So say that out loud with me, would you? Source always provides. Source always provides. Let's do source is always source, and source always provides. Source is always source, and source always supplies. A weighty conviction of that. This next one I had planned to say before we learned of Patrician's passing. It means, having this weighty conviction means that if a loved one dies, we say makes a transition because we don't really believe in death, but dies from our human perspective, dies or a relationship ends, that does not mean that love ends, and that there is an infinite amount of love. There is an infinite amount of love. And this means that even when we die, and I said when, because eventually that will happen for all of us, even when we die, we know that our life still flows, to quote Ernest Holmes, on the currents of eternity. Having a weighty conviction of all of who we are and whose we are helps us deal with life when the pendulum looks like it's going to hit us in the face. So I bring back my favorite words from Ernest Holmes. Stay with the one and never deviate from it. When we never leave it for a moment, nothing can equal this attitude. When we can be the person who throws him or herself with complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, we will be the ones who receive the greatest reward. And our lives will reflect that as they shine bright like a diamond. Let's pray. So take a deep breath. And we settle into the recognition of the wholeness, the allness, the fullness, the perfection, the love, the life that is the divine, that is source, that is God. And we expand our hearts and our minds to have a bigger picture of that in this moment than perhaps we have ever had before. God is the source of all. And God is God. Source is source. Love is love. And I am that. And each and every one of us here is that. Patrician is that. Her husband Ray is that. This collective community is that. My beloved Lonnie is that. We are God, expressing in this human experience. And so we are love, and we are wholeness, and we are perfection, and we are life. That is our truth. Know this truth. I know this truth right now. And as I know this truth, I speak my word into God's perfect law. The law that only and always says yes. It only and always says yes. So I speak my word for each of us here today. And for anyone who might be facing a pendulum situation, that it looks like they've already been smacked in the face with a big challenge. I accept and know an expansion of consciousness here today, a greater conviction, a deeper belief, a deeper trust in the power of God's love and law. And I know that as that occurs and the vibration that we are rises, then the outer experience shifts and changes. It is not ours to say how it changes, what the result is, or in Ernest Holmes' terms, what the reward is, but we know it is there. And we have a deep conviction that that is so as well. So I accept that for each and every one of us. I also accept for each person here today that whatever journey they are on in this moment or will be on in the future, that this is a community of care, and that there are hands to hold to help us walk across whatever bridge we may be walking across. There is love here in this room, in this community, and that we avail ourselves of it. So proclaiming all of this, placing it into the law, I then do the only last two things that are needed. And one is to fill my heart with profound gratitude. Profound gratitude that this prayer has been answered already, is already manifesting itself through us and as us. And then I release. I let it go. I trust in Source because Source is always Source. I trust in the law because the law is always law. And therefore I call it good and know that it is done. And so it is.